Welcome to third session, Finite Element Methods, Module 1, Introduction to Finite Element Methods. I am Dr. Jayaraja R, Assistant Professor, Mechanical Engineering Department, Government Engineering College, Haveri. In the second session, we discussed what is stiffness, derivation of stiffness matrix for 1D bar element, how to write elemental matrix, how to write global matrix, what are all the properties of the global stiffness matrix, what is banded matrix, what is full bandwidth, what is half bandwidth, we discussed. So in this third session, we are going to discuss what is boundary condition, why boundary conditions are required, what are all the types of boundary conditions, and what is potential energy, what is strain energy, what is work potential. So boundary conditions, why boundary conditions are required. So for example, if you consider a stepwood bar made up of two elements, element 1 and element 2, and there are three nodes, node 1, node 2, node 3, and A1, L1, E1 are the area, length and Young's modulus for the element 1. Similarly, A2, L2, E2 are the area, length, Young's modulus for the element 2. Now, if I apply load at node 3, so whether I can get displacements or whether I can get strains or whether I can get stresses. So if I solve this problem in the software, any software package, I may get error or I may get results, but all results value like displacement, strain and stress value may be 0. Why? Because so if I apply the load at node 3, the entire bar, it is keep on moving. Since there is no restriction, there is no constraint, it will be keep on moving. It is called as rigid body motion. Or another chance is that, so for example, if I apply the load at node 3, I may get very large displacement at node 3 where force is applied. That is singularity error. So in order to avoid singularity error or in order to avoid the rigid body motions, we need to apply the boundary condition. That means we need to constrain the node. For example, so here if I constrain node 1 and if I apply the load at node 3, so I can solve this using AND calculations or even I can run in any software. So I can get U2 and U3 displacement at node 2 and node 3 can be obtained, and U1 should be 0 since node 1 is fully constrained. So in general, there are two types of boundary conditions. One is homogeneous boundary conditions and another one is non-homogeneous boundary conditions. In homogeneous boundary conditions, these boundary conditions occurs at the location that completely prevent the movement and are often taken 0 at these nodes. Example for homogeneous boundary condition, elimination approach. Here same stepwood bar of two elements and there are three nodes. Here node 1 it is fully fixed and node 3 force is applied. So according to elimination approach, since node 1 is fully fixed, so I should get U1 should be 0. That means according to elimination approach, since node 1 is fixed, the entire row 1 and entire column 1 in the global matrix can be eliminated and remaining matrix can be solved using Gauss elimination method to obtain the displacement, strains and stresses. Another type of boundary condition, it is called as non-homogeneous boundary condition. These boundary conditions occurs where finite non-zero values of variables are specified, such as settlement of the support. Example, penalty approach. So here fixed support can be, in penalty approach, fixed support can be modeled using spring element and we need to assign the stiffness of the spring. So in the previous case, the node 1 was fixed, fully fixed. It was not allowed to move in any direction. Whereas in non-homogeneous boundary condition, either we can fix it it cannot move in any direction, or we can allow node 1 to move to certain distance. That is called as specified displacement boundary condition. Also it is called as enforced displacement boundary conditions. So now we are going to discuss in detail. So elimination approach. Here there are stepward bar, there are two elements and there are three nodes, node 1, node 2, node 3, and force is applied at node 3, and node 1 it is fully fixed. So we know that governing equation or equilibrium equation F is equal to K into U. F is the global force vector and K is the global stiffness matrix and U is the global displacement vector. So in the second session we have derived global stiffness matrix for this stepward bar problem. This is the F1, F2, F3 are the force vector and this is the stiffness matrix, this is the displacement vector. Now since node 1 is fully fixed, so according to elimination approach, so entire row 1 including F1 and displacement vector, so entire row 1 and column 1 can be eliminated and the remaining reduced matrix, that is F2 F3 is equal to K1 plus K2 minus K2 minus K2 K2 and U2 U3 can be written, and this U2 U3 can be obtained by applying the Gauss elimination method. So now we will assume, so instead of node 1 is fixed, so now if I fix node 3 and if I apply load at node 1, so according to elimination approach, if I fix node 3, I need to omit entire row 3 and column 3 and remaining matrix should be F1, F2, K1 minus K1 minus K1, K1 plus K2, U1, U2. Again we need to apply Gauss elimination to find the U1, U2. This is elimination approach. This elimination approach is useful when AND calculations are made. If computers are used, computer coding becomes too lengthy. Next, penalty approach. Here, a same problem I have considered here in penalty approach. So here, fixed boundary conditions are modeled using spring element. So either we can fix it or we can allow node 1 to certain distance. So if it is fully fixed, we need to assign the stiffness value for the spring. So here also there are two elements and there are three nodes, and node 1 it is fully fixed and load is applied at node 3. So as per the governing equation, F is equal to K into U, and this is the global force, global vector. Now we need to find, using penalty approach, first we need to find C value, stiffness of the spring we need to find. How to find stiffness of the spring? First we need to assign the values K1 and K2 values we need to assign. Then we need to look which is the having maximum value, maximum of Kij, which is the maximum value. Usually K1 plus K2 should be the maximum. So we need to consider maximum in the stiffness matrix. Then we need to multiply into 10 raised to 4. Why we need to multiply 10 raised to 4? We need to make stiffness very large so that we won't get displacement at node 1. So either we can take 10 raised to 4 or any higher value. For simplification easy, I take 10 raised to 4. Next step in the global matrix, according to penalty approach, since node 1 is fixed, so C can be added to the first diagonal element of the stiffness matrix. Since node 1 is fixed, C can be added to the first diagonal element of the stiffness matrix. Then CA1. So here, since in this particular problem it is fully fixed, A1 should be 0. So CA1 gets added to the force vector F1 at node 1 location. So this, if it is fixed at node 1. So if it is fixed at node 3, for assume node 3 is fixed. So C can get added here, third third element of the diagonal element of the stiffness matrix, C can be added, and here F3 plus C A1 can be added here. So next we need to apply the Gauss elimination method to find U1, U2, U3 displacements. So U1 will be almost equal to 0 value. Here, since node 1 is fully fixed, we'll get the reaction at node 1. How to find reaction at node 1 using penalty approach? So we need to use this equation R1. So reaction at node 1 can be calculated using minus C into U1. C is the stiffness of the spring. We need to consider entire U1 value, that is all decimals we need to consider in order to get exact reaction at node 1. So this approach is easy to implement in computer program, and even it retains its simplicity even when considering general boundary conditions. Next we'll move on to potential energy method. The total potential energy of an elastic body is defined as the sum of the strain energy due to internal stresses produced and the work potential due to the external force. That is, total potential energy can be represented as strain energy plus work potential. Work potential due to externally applied load. Work potential always should be negative. So potential function can be denoted as pi is equal to strain energy plus work potential. Now we will discuss what is strain energy and what is work potential. So strain energy is defined as the energy stored in any object which is loaded within the elastic limit. The shaded portion is called as the strain energy. The unit of strain energy, it is Newton meter or joules. Strain energy can be represented as of stress transpose strain into volume. So here sigma transpose consists of 6 components, stress components, 3 normal stresses and 3 shear stress components. Total there are 6 stress components. So for small element volume dV within a body, strain energy can be represented of sigma transpose epsilon dV. So for the entire body, we need to integrate this equation. So integration of sigma transpose epsilon into dV. Now work potential due to externally applied force. So there are in general 3 types of forces. First one is body force, second one is traction force, and third one is point force. So now work potential due to body force, we will calculate work potential due to body force. Say for small element, work potential can be represented, it is always should be negative. So Fxu plus Fyv plus Fzw into dV. Fx, Fy, Fz are the body forces along x, y and z direction, and u, v, w are the displacement along x, y and z directions. For the entire body work potential we need to integrate. So total work potential for the entire body can be volume integral u transpose F into dV. F is the body force. So next, work potential due to traction force or surface force. Here for small element, work potential can be represented like previous case, like body force. Here instead of Fx, Fy, Fz, here I am writing Tx, Ty, Tz. Tx, Ty, Tz are the traction forces along x, y and z direction. So for small element, work potential can be represented minus Txu plus Tyv plus Tzw into ds. For entire body work potential we need to integrate it. So for entire body work potential can be represented minus surface integral u transpose T into ds. So T, it consists of traction forces along x, y, z direction, and u, v, w are the displacements along x, y, z direction. Then third one, due to point forces. So work potential due to point forces can be calculated. minus pxu plus pyv plus pzw. So if there are high number of forces, then work potential can be represented is equal to minus summation I is equal to 1 to n ui transpose pi. So P, it is a point force along x, y, z direction. U, V, W are the displacement along three directions. So for example, body, all three forces are acting, like body forces, traction forces, point forces. Then work potential can be represented like total work potential due to external force WP can be represented minus volume integral u transpose f into dv. This is due to body force. So plus surface integral u transpose t into ds. This is due to traction force plus summation I is equal to 1 to n ui transpose pi. This is due to point forces. So this is the end of the third session. I'm going to stop it here. Thank you.